Uh, For this evening, we are going to start with an invocation given by our newest Commissioner Mitchell, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance that Commissioner Bullock will lead us in that. At this time, I'll turn the time over to Commissioner Mitchell for the opening prayer.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're grateful to be here this evening. We're thankful for the opportunity we have to live in this wonderful city. We pray at this time for thy help as we discuss the matters that come before us this evening, that we'll do so in an orderly manner. We pray thou please help us to make those decisions that will help benefit our city and the citizens that are a part of it. We're again grateful for all of our blessings and for all that was given us, and we thank thee, and this we pray for and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners, thank you. We'll start tonight by welcoming Commissioner Mitchell. This is his first planning commission. I appreciate you coming on board. Thank you. Look forward to hearing from you and all of the comments and suggestions and everything that you have. Looking forward to it for sure. At this time, I'll look for an approval for the agenda for tonight, February 16th, 2022 from the commissioners.
This year, I propose we approve the minutes for this evening's minutes.
This Commissioner
Amanda?
Tupou, I second that.
Okay, I've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is set for this evening as outlined. Item number 2, we'll look for an approval on the minutes from February 2nd. If you've had a chance to review those, which we would have all gotten, if there's any last minute changes or corrections, otherwise I'll look for a motion to approve those minutes as well.
I think it was the one prior to that, but it was our training meeting, actually. The second.
Just have to approve it then.
Yeah, well, this year, I would vote that we, or propose that we approve the minutes from February 2nd meeting.
This Commissioner Tupou, and I second that.
All right, I've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Also passes unanimously. This time, item number 3, this is the time for declaration of abstentions and conflicts for any items on the agenda from any of the commissioners this evening. Commissioner Hanson and I do not have any. None. Looks like
Mitchell,
nobody has any conflicts for this evening. We'll move to item number 4A. This is a preliminary plat. This is a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to the City Council for Laurel Ridge Phase 1. It's approximately 1100 East Desert Ridge Drive. The applicant is Greg Esteban. I'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
Thank you, commissioners. This particular subdivision is proposing 7 lots on an area covering 1.51 acres. The zoning designation at this location is planned unit development. The surrounding zoning is planned unit development to the north, east, south, and west. This subdivision is in the Hillside Overlay Zone. The Hillside Review Committee did meet on site and reviewed the development proposal. The Hillside Committee motioned to approve these 7 lots due to there being no concerns with this area, the 7 lots. Phase 2 will be brought forth at a later date while taking into consideration the recommendations of the Hillside. The proposed subdivision conforms to the approved zoning. The request meets the subdivision requirements and other city ordinances as it relates to this location. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends approval with conditions of the preliminary plat as outlined. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the preliminary plat for the Laurel Ridge Phase 1 subdivision to the City Council based on the following findings and subject to the following conditions. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thanks, Eldon. Commissioners, I'll open the floor for any questions you have for staff at this time.
Okay. Okay.
Is this just a 7-phase or is there I mean, 7 lots, or is there multiple phases to this?
There'll be 2 phases to it. This is the first phase.
Yeah, just to point out that where it says future phase will be a cul-de-sac. It'll come up, you see the road cut out right there, opposite lot 5.
Okay.
And then there'll just be, what is there, I think
You can
12
see, you
12
can
more
see it. If
lots,
you zoom in,
something.
you can see it on your iPad. You can see the cul-de-sac.
Yeah. Like I said, I can bring it up on the map if you want. But
Oh, I thought you were bringing it up, sorry. Any other questions from the commission for staff? At this time, I'll be opening this up because it is a public hearing for comments from the public. We did receive and had a chance to review one comment from Ron and Mavon. Sorry if I mispronounced your name on this particular item. If there's anybody else here in the chamber that would like to speak to this item, would they please come forward and remember to state your name for the recording and for the record. I don't see anybody at this time that would like to make a comment. I'll look for a motion from the commission to close the public hearing.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a motion we close the public hearing.
Shill, I second.
Got a first and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed. I'll circle back to the commission at this time if there's any additional questions or comments for staff. And if there are not, I'll look for a motion on this item.
As Commissioner Tupou, I make a motion to recommend approval with the conditions and findings in staff report for the Laurel Ridge Phase 1 subdivision.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I'll second.
I've got a first by Commissioner Tupou. I've got a second by Commissioner Bullock. Individual voting.
Can I make a comment here real quick? Sorry. I'm just looking here at the Hillside Committee stuff, and they had like 9 different recommendations on this. We want to incorporate that into our motion that at least be looked at. Drew? They got 9
those
things
are for
here.
phase 2. That's why we're not bringing phase 2
It's
to
on
you.
phase 2, and I just
So
read
all
the
those things
Hillside,
were for them to work on before they could bring phase 2 to
Okay,
us.
gotcha.
These, they said they're fine with. These are walkouts. That's where you can see those series of lines.
Right.
They have no issue with that because the road's level, it's already cut in,
Okay.
ready to go. So yeah, sorry that you didn't
It's
pick
fine. I
that.
just
but-
reading them, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's 9 conditions here.
Yeah, there are, but that, they have to get all that ready for that future phase there. So the 1 through 7 have none.
Okay,
I included those minutes just so you saw the motion and these 7 were.
that's good. Thank you.
All right, our initial motion still stands and passes. Actually, our initial motion still stands and we'll do individual voting. Commissioner Shield,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Bullock,
Aye.
Tupou.
Aye.
I'm Hanson. I'm an aye as well. Item number 4A passes. We'll send that to City Council with a recommendation for approval. Item number 5A, this is a final plat amendment. It's also a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to the City Council for Canyon Greens Commercial Center. Amendment located approximately 2303 North Coral Canyon Boulevard. The applicant is Aaron Lanston and Sitla, and I'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
He pronounces that Langston.
Langston?
The G was accidentally left out.
That might be a Southern Utah-ism, but that's how they do it here.
Thank you, Mr. Siegmiller.
Could have been worse.
Thank you, commissioners. For the reason for this amendment is to plat the existing office suites to allow each office space to be individually owned. This will allow the owner to sell the office space if they so desire. Staff has reviewed the proposed amended final plat and finds it conforms to the original PCD zoning of this development. The subdivision also remains in compliance with the subdivision ordinance of the city. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the amended final plat for the Canyon Greens Commercial Center onto the City Council based on the following original findings and subject to the following original conditions. And we're happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thanks, Eldon. Commissioners, I'll open the floor for any questions.
Nothing's changing with the complex, just platting each individual office suite.
This gives them the right to sell it in the future if they like, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Hanson, is it okay if I have the engineer come up? Just because he drove all this way and I do have a question. Mike, do you mind, you know, hopefully you know the answer to this, so.
Yeah, just please state your name
This
for the
just
record.
popped into my head. I just got to think, so.
Sure, no problem. Mike Bradshaw with Alliance Consulting.
Parking lot, are you going to make it a full ingress egress everybody uses, or are there going to be assigned ownership on number of stalls?
So no, it will continue as a shared use parking lot for all of the tenants. So there, even right now, there are some allotted stalls for each of the units, but it's
They've
more
agreed to that in an HOA thing.
more of an agreement through the HOA, not a specific assignment.
Okay, good answer. That's what I was hoping. I was just curious to do that because that's what I would have recommended, to leave it all open. So, thanks, Mike.
No problem.
Commissioners, any other initial questions? This is a public hearing. I will also, just for the record, we did receive a number of public comments on this via an email entry as well. I'm just going to read the names, and the reason I do this is if you've submitted it, we've seen it, as well as City Council has also received it and had a chance to review it now or prior to their meeting if they would like. They will also receive any any comments or suggestions or questions that come this evening in the public comment section. This is the opportunity for you to come up and submit your comment so so the City Council can review it. If you've already sent it in, they already have it. There's no need to come up and say it twice. We received something from Jason, Talia, Mike, and I'm going to say Asa.
Well, Ace is on the next one, 6A.
I went too far. Well,
Yeah, you only go to
went
Mike
too
Cook
far.
and then you're done.
perfect.
Well, yeah, that's correct.
At this time, I'll open it up for a public hearing for anybody here in the chamber that would like to speak on this item, number 5A. Please come forward and state your name for the record. It looks at this time that we do not have any members of the public that would like to come forward. I look for a motion to close the public hearing on 5A.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a motion we close the public hearing.
There's Commissioner Tupou. I second that.
Got a first and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed. I'll circle back, commissioners, to open the floor once again with any questions for staff or the applicant. If not, I'll look for a motion on this item as well.
I think it looks to me like the people that have commented don't really understand what's going on.
Yeah.
It's a tenanted building, then nothing's going to change. They're going to stay. They're just going to have the opportunity to buy it. If they want to buy it, they don't want to buy it, they'll continue to lease. So nothing changes. There's no storage units coming. There's no 7-Eleven coming that I know of. So I think we're fine.
Commented on the wrong item.
What?
I think they might have commented on the wrong item.
I think you're right.
Talking about the one that'll come up
Yeah.
later.
So I just wanted to clarify that. So
Thanks, Commissioner. I'll look for a motion on item 5A if there's no other comment or question.
This is Shield.
Go for it.
I would recommend that the planning commission, do we forward this to the council? We're
Yes.
looking at the right one?
Yes, 5A?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So I would recommend that the planners recommend to the city council to approve this plat amendment for Canyon Greens Commercial Center located at 2303 North Coral Canyon Boulevard with the 2 findings and 5 conditions.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I'll second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Shield. I have a second by Commissioner Bullock. Individual voting, Commissioner Shield,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Bullock,
Aye.
Tupou,
Aye.
I'm Hanson, I'm an aye as well. Item number 5A passes unanimously. We'll send that to City Council with a recommendation for approval. Thanks, Mike. We'll move on to item number 6A. This is also a public hearing, and this is for consideration and recommendation to the City Council as well. A zone change request, Z-22-01, to extend the R115 to the north and east, located approximately east end of Wild Horse Ridge. The applicant is Short Term Investments, LLC. And I'll turn the time over to staff for the report.
Thank you, Commissioners. As stated, the applicant's requesting approval to change the zoning of approximately 2.05 acres. The requested change is from the current zoning of open space to the proposed single-family residential 15,000 square foot minimum zoning designation. The R115 request is for the purpose of increasing square footage to an already existing R115 zone lot, or lots in this particular case, because there'll be, you can see that one to the north is a separate lot, but so that green area, they're wishing to turn it to the blue color, basically expanding all of that is what the request is. The particular location has a general plan use designation, which is recently granted to them, a very low density residential, which allows for the R115 and larger zoning districts. The surrounding zoning to this parcel is open space to the north and east, and R115 to the west and south. Staff has no concerns with the proposed zone change as outlined. Again, just it's a follow-up to the recently amended general plan for this particular area out of the open space into the very low density, which allows them for the zone change tonight to make application for. Staff therefore would like to recommend that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-22-01 for the zone change request from open space to proposed R115, and that would be on to the City Council and based on the findings in your report. Be glad to answer any questions that the commissioners might have on this zone change.
All right, Commissioners, open for questions for staff at this time.
This is Sheila. I have just a question. Back in the day when I guess the original subdivision there was platted and brought before the Planning Commission and the City Council, weren't they required to have so much open space for their development? And I mean, that's just kind of how I've understood it, that when you do a subdivision, you typically end up with open space that is left as open for parks and or hillside or whatever. But I just need it clarified to me, not necessarily.
It's not a
It's straight
PUD.
zoning.
Okay.
If you're PUD, you're right in the conversation. Straight zoning, there is no requirement. You know, that's why we have setbacks also in straight zoning of lots are individual setbacks to keep where they're not encroaching on, you know, every part of their parcel. This really isn't, I wouldn't even call it a subdivision. It was just some lots that were left going up the hill. This particular applicant has just purchased these, knowing that that white part, if you know, after the green there, they can't use the rest of that. It's up in the hillside, and told them we're not going up in there with any development. So technically, I guess to answer your question, if you want to be real specific, over half his lot is going to be open space untouched directly to the west, to the east. Does that help in that case?
Yeah, I
So-
just wondered because it seems like as you get new commissioners and new planners in here, they think, well, I'm going to go give it another try. So
Yeah.
just a thought.
Yeah, not in this case. They're just, someone went up, flattened all that area out years ago. They're just, where that was done way back when, they're just getting that utilization of the ground. Except for the green part going to the north, they are going to be doing some stuff, but they have gone through everything they need to on this project, getting that ready just to expand that lot going that direction. So I think that's where this particular applicant is going to put his home, is on that piece
Yeah.
right next to that Kent Rasmussen labeled parcel
Right.
next door to it.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. I know what they're doing there, but it just seems like they got a heck of an elevation change that they just left pretty ugly. So.
No.
Yeah, well, I hope he does, but he's not going to improve that hill or that cut that he has going up about 100 feet.
So,
That used to be a goalie.
Yeah, I know.
Just-
I know.
It's now it went from one extreme to the other, but
Yeah.
that was, I think, even done by a previous.
Now you see it. You didn't see it before.
Yeah, because it went down, now it goes up.
Yeah. So that's it.
so I have a question. So is he going to be required to maintain all of the open space as well as?
Well, we hope he doesn't touch it. I
Yeah.
mean, really, our
So it could
hope is,
just
because
grow,
that's when you end up
Like,
with
there's no
bad.
maintenance for that open space.
Right,
It's
because
just left.
if they go
Okay.
and scar it and then create weeds in it, because that's where all the weeds come from. As soon as you go hit some of that dirt, if it sits for a long time, you'll get that natural native growth, which
Mm-hmm.
everybody just loves. I'm not always a big fan, but it's better than tumbleweeds and other stuff that, but once you disrupt that earth, that's when all the other seeds come floating by and fall in and start the tumbleweed effect and all those ugly weeds that grow in the spring and the summer. But hopefully he won't touch it,
Okay.
and that'll leave it in that natural state.
It'd be pretty hard to touch. That the area in the white is a massive ravine. Like there's nothing he can do on it. It's just a big ravine that butts up to the BLM land. So
Drew, this is Commissioner Hanson. The last time we saw this come through, not all that long ago, and there were some public comments about it as well from some of the residents down below. Is there anything that's being required to handle the runoff that's not listed here? I would expect it's a city standard.
Well, you
of
won't
coming in.
you won't see drainage in a zone change. We see that at development. I mean, if he comes and creates lots, the subdivision will then have that. If he goes for a permit, they still have to account for their water. And Public Works and all of us will see that as the roads extended, the cul-de-sacs put in, those things are built out, all that's going to help tremendously. Having that road extended with a cul-de-sac on the bubble on the end of it will gather a lot of that water, run it into the storm drain, and hopefully keep it from heading south as much as possible.
So we have to go
So-
through this process before we can hold them accountable for improving that.
Right, because I wouldn't let him bring a subdivision in with open space and make lots out of them going, well, why are you doing that? You can't build in an open space lot. So you get your zoning done, then it's followed by, subdividing. So
All right. Thanks.
now, depending on how many lots he creates, that it'll still have to go back through staff, and we'll look at those things. Because you could do a 2-lot subdivision here, and you'll just see the conceptual, and then you can bring up all your questions there. I forgot it does come to you even on a 2-lot.
Okay.
So
It's Commissioner Tupou. So is there ever a time where open space is rezoned to something where they could build?
happens often. We're trying to get out of that factor, even in our general plan. A lot of cities will do this. If they don't know what they want to go there, don't know what the future brings, instead of trying to do the crystal ball, cities will just put it in what we call it's our placeholder. Open space is great to protect land, but it's also a great place to have as a placeholder for lots. We don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what the future brings. We're trying to get out of that because people put way too much, they'll come and say, your general plan I bought because my realtor said this would never go because it's open space. Well,
Never say never.
yeah. And don't always trust what you hear when you're buying something, I guess. But so what we're trying to do is, in our general plan, find areas we're calling yet to be determined. And so that's what we're starting to call things, where we can. we're gonna, and still, but doesn't mean that you can't change anything. We're just trying to eliminate as much of what we see so people don't, and so when it's yet to be determined, you really can't question it because it says, oh, they didn't know at the time, so now someone's proposing this. So you'll see that term a little bit more, especially, on future updates in the general plan as we dig down into some of these tougher ones. We're going to try to hold hard to certain open space. We may come up with a category that says, 99% guaranteed open space, being a little facile, but and then have the yet to be determined. But it was common and is still common that you'll see in general plans, open space, even in zoning, till someone comes, but you then fall under what the general plan had for its future possibilities. So hopefully that answers your question. We're trying to,
That's a
every
good
time we have an
question.
opportunity. So
And of course, if an applicant wants to change that designation, they come back through the process. And so we'll always make them come and speak with the commission and the council to accomplish a change.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, any additional questions for staff before we open the public hearing? All right, at this time, I'll open the public hearing on item number 6A. If there's anybody here in the chamber that would like to come and speak on this item, please do so. Remember to state your name for the record. All right, it doesn't look like anybody in chamber would like to speak on this item as well. I'll look for a motion to close item 6A, the public hearing.
This is Commissioner Tupou. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I'll second.
All right, we've got a first and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is now closed. I'll turn the time back, commissioners, for any questions for staff or comments.
So no, never mind. Answered my own question. Sorry.
Well, answer it for us.
the best question.
All right, if there's no additional comments or questions, I'll look for a motion on this item.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a motion we recommend approval of Z-22-01 for the zone change from open space to the proposed single-family 15,000 square foot minimum R115 to the City Council based on the following findings, on the two findings.
This is Commissioner Tupou. I second that.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Bullock. I have a second by Commissioner Tupou. Individual voting: Shield,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Bullock,
Aye.
Tupou.
Aye.
I'm Hanson. I'm an aye as well. Item number 6A passes. We'll send that to City Council with a recommendation for our approval. Item number 7A, this is a general plan amendment. This is an item that was tabled from January 19th. This is also a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to the City Council, a general plan amendment, G-22-01, to change from medium-high density to high density located approximately Bella Vista Drive and Desert Cactus Drive. The applicant is Wasatch Acquisitions, and I'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
Thank you. As stated, the item was tabled at the 19th of January's Planning Commission meeting, with the commissioners giving time for the developer applicant to meet with and give a presentation to the surrounding residential citizens on the proposed multifamily project. Getting back to, and I think that meeting did take place, from what I understand, and so they did work that meeting with those folks. The applicant, as just go back to remind you, since it's been almost a month, seeking to amend the general plan land use map, again going from the current medium high density designation to the proposed high density residential. Again, that's a bump from 7 to 12 dwelling units per acre up to 13 to 16 dwelling units per acre. The property covers 13.78 acres. The current land use designated, as stated, is medium high density. So the surrounding general plan use designations are community commercial. And let me turn my page. To the north and east, medium high density residential, or just medium density, sorry, it should not be high, medium density to the west and medium density residential to the south. Staff has reviewed the requested change and wishes to be neutral on the proposed change from the request from the medium high density to the high density residential designation, pointing out that the request is not far-fetched but could be justified with location abutting commercial zoning properties and closeness to Telegraph Road, but due to the surrounding developments, the current designation appears to be the best density. Again, this is just staff's filling on that for the parcel in the area. Staff would like to recommend the Planning Commission recommend approval or denial for G-21- sorry, dash 22-01 to amend the general plan from medium high density to high density residential as outlined and shown in your report. I'd be glad to answer any questions that the commissioners have on this. Again, remember you held a, we knew that they were asking for it to be tabled, that everybody had been noticed, so you let them come and give you their thoughts and everything on that from that meeting. So
Did we send out notice again to them?
I can't remember who did. I'm hoping that Kathy or Melody will answer that. I can't remember if we assigned it to be done and or not. And Kathy or Melody, do you have an answer for that? I can't remember what the.
Yes, we did not, we sent notice.
Thank
You
you.
sent it twice, right?
So you sent out another one, correct?
That's correct.
There you go.
Okay. It just doesn't look as full as it was last time.
Maybe the meeting.
A lot of them had that meeting. I think they
No,
said
that's-
the meeting, from what I've heard, it, went fairly well, that everybody was able to see a lot of things there. And so, but that's just, I heard it from one side, didn't hear it from the other. So
Right.
I'm always going to say, yeah, it went great, but you don't know what the other, so it looks apparently like a lot of things were answered in that meeting. So.
Commissioners, any other questions for staff before I open this up to a public hearing? I have one, Drew. I obviously saw this ahead of time. I heard what you just read. Staff kind of on the fence about it, but high density here wouldn't be completely out of the question because of what it's butting up against with the community commercial in the future and the community commercial that's already there, correct? That's
Correct.
Okay. At this time, what I'll do is open the public hearing for item number 7A. I actually don't think any of the notes were, or the public comment were regards to this item. Some of the numbers, it looks like were misplaced on this, and so, but I don't see any for this item, so we didn't receive anything. But if there's anybody here in the chamber that would like to speak to this item, please come forward and state your name for the record. Wow, that meeting must have went really well. There was probably 50 people here last time. There, we talked you into it.
So my name is Ginger Wiscombe, and I live up in Bella Vista, and we did have the meeting with the developer. I think what they are proposing looks pretty nice. I think the homeowners that are in the surrounding area are under the consensus that it looks like a nice development. I just wanted to comment, there's going to be a lot of increase in traffic in the area, and understanding that they're trying to move the traffic towards 11th East, and there's going to be a stoplight there that maybe the city ought to reconsider putting a stoplight on Bella Vista for the safety of the citizens. It is pretty hard to get out on Telegraph, and it's just going to get worse. So that is one comment, and I guess it's more of a question I have, if they actually do change what they showed us in the meeting and they proposed, does it have to come back through, or once you guys change it to high density, can they do whatever they want? So that's more of a question. So thank you.
John, I may be overspeaking, but I think isn't there a light plan maybe eventually at Bella Vista anyway? Always has been, just to answer that, and at 1100 East. So both. Yeah, because I remember it used to be in the previous, when this was going through, that we've always talked about, and that these developments would probably push that light. We know there's going to be one in 1100 East. We're trying to get that alignment done, because if you go there, you know that it's got a little offset from across the street. So I hope that helps you. 2 lights.
Yes, and I think trying to push traffic that way is probably, I don't know that people are really gonna go that way.
I wish we could push traffic, but on
Yeah.
public roads,
You can't.
they're public roads, but, I think people will go where the least resistance. I mean, we're all natural that way. If that gets to be too problematic for people at Bella Vista, I can promise you they're gonna head over to 1100 East, just by Murphy's Law will end up having them go that way.
We
So,
go that way, but, not if
Yeah.
we're going to Home Depot.
I've pushed a little traffic just by sheer fact of liking old vehicles occasionally. But, I think it was 10 years ago that we talked about the same lights, and sometimes these stoplights just need to have enough traffic, and studies warrant them, that they take time. But I think everybody agrees that there needs to be a solution for
Pretty
crossing
dangerous
Telegraph.
getting out there now.
Yeah.
But we try to go the other way if we can.
Yeah.
So.
And
And
it's
just-
unrelated to this issue, but we've had some conversation about some of those properties that don't have sidewalk along Telegraph, right? Like we need to get sidewalk in there, and that'll help with safety issues too. And so we're talking about it, trying to come up with the best way, but
Yeah, there's just a couple of little places, like right along Telegraph. If you're riding a bike, you have to go out onto the street, and it's pretty dangerous. Yeah.
And as you're walking back, I'll just keep listening, but know, if this gets approved by the city council in 3 weeks, it'll go to them in 3 weeks from tonight with whatever recommendation they send. They can't just go do whatever they want. No, they still have to bring a project and get it, so whatever they showed you in that meeting, I'm telling the applicant, he knows already, that better be what they bring, to us to get proposed to you, because that's the one they showed you. So I would highly recommend, he knows that, but that's what should be showing up in a PUD zone change, in a month or however, I don't know what the timetable is, but you'll be getting notice again if this goes through. And again, they cross my fingers, what you were shown in your meeting, I didn't see, is probably what will be showing up in that zone change.
We talked another one into it. Please state your name. Thank you.
I'm gonna finish up with, I'm John Wiscombe from Bella Vista. Along with my wife's point, we calculate with these guys' project, which they have done a really nice job in their project. For what was gonna go in there and what they're putting in, I'm more happy with. But between their doors and the doors from Sunflower and the other doors there, we're calculating, somewhere between 400 to 500 vehicles coming out of that area. UDOT next year is going to start interchange 11, exit 11 on Main Street, right? That push to push people up 1100 East and go up the Parkway coming out of this is going to go the other way as soon as that interchange gets in, making me think that Bella Vista, and it's the easier path for those people in there, are going to try to use it, especially if you're going south. You're not going to go that way to get on the freeway to go back south if you can go down to Main Street and go up. The light, whenever it is planned for, I know these guys aren't going to start, there's not going to be people in there for a while, but it needs to be on the horizon to put a light on Bella Vista. Thanks.
Thanks, John. Anybody else this evening like to speak on this item? I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
It's Commissioner Tupou. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Anderson, I second.
Got a first and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is now closed. I'll turn the time over, commissioners, for any comments or questions for staff or the applicant.
Drew, was this a PUD before?
Yes, it was.
Are we still rezoning it as a PUD?
Well, we don't know. They can come in with an R3 or a PUD. I would imagine they'll come in with a PUD,
What's an R3?
multifamily.
3,000.
It's just a residential. R3 just stands for multifamily residential.
So if we go up to the high density and they just come in with a subdivision and where it's straight zoning and could put just whatever the high density, they wouldn't have to have a PUD where we could see the process, right?
Well, no, they only have two options in high density. You either do an R3 zone or you do a PUD. That's your only options in high density. And I guess R3 is straight zoning, but in R3, if you go straight zoning, you still have to get a conditional use permit in R3 for more than 4 units on a lot. So I wouldn't go through a zone change, then come back with a conditional use permit. I'm going to go for a PUD and just go get my zone change and not have to come back.
Okay, that's what
Does that make sense? That's why
I wanted to make sure of. I wanted to make sure that because this was originally a PUD.
it
Or
was.
right now it is.
It is.
So I mean,
Yeah, right now it is.
but
The
nothing's been
plan,
done.
the plan expired, but it's still zoned PUD.
Right, and that's what I was wondering if it was just
Right.
why they didn't just come in and amend or change the PUD.
Because they
it's
want
not-
higher density.
Higher density, okay.
Yeah, because
that
they'd be
makes sense.
maxed at 12 units per acre. Now they can go somewhere between 13 and 16,
Okay,
depending on what the lot can carry and the parking and everything else.
but with the conditional use permit, we can, straight zoning, we can enforce open space.
Well, there is, and the R3 does demand that you have a percent, it's pretty
Okay.
good because it's based on multifamily. So that's built into the R3 as part of their conditional use permit. They have to show recreation. They have to show certain, that's even built into the R3. But again, if I'm telling people if they have to go to a public hearing with the Planning Commission, City Council for the R3 and then come back to a public hearing with a conditional use permit, and I only have to do 2 the other way, I'm going 2 the other way.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that it does go through like we're wanting. If we change it and it doesn't, then they can come in and put the other in there. I just wanted to make sure that we're still going to get something like apparently what was at the meeting. So,
Well, even the one that isn't going to be there anymore was a great project. It's just it was a different builder. That's not what Wasatch does. They're the ones applying for this, but it was a great multifamily project. It really was. You remember seeing it. I think you're the only one. Well, you might have been. Oh, where you guys saw that? It's been around that long. No, I'm not talking about the one for here, that
original.
previous one.
Wasn't there 2 previous?
Well, let's don't get into that, Commissioner.
I think I've seen 2. This is
Yeah.
the third.
But anyway, so that's what we'll probably be seeing is a new PUD proposal by Wasatch.
Yeah.
This is Commissioner Anderson. If it's R3, are we talking what, like 4-plex, 6-plex townhomes, or are we talking apartment buildings, or
It could be
either?
It could be anything in that.
Okay.
But I don't think that's what you're going to see. You're going to.
Right. I'm just asking what the R3 gives us.
In my tenure, I don't think I've ever witnessed a turnaround on a project from having so many people here to meeting with the developer and nobody here.
still
And
baffled by
I'm
that,
leery.
aren't you?
I'm very leery because I personally thought I liked the project that was there that we saw last time. That's what
This
I
must
would've
be
wanted
a-
to see. So
Bang up
I'm
project.
So Drew, what did they see? Do we have that? Do we know
No,
what
we
that
don't.
meeting
They
included?
were just wanting to show them why they're going for high density. We're not approving their project because we haven't seen it, which is good. I don't mind them showing, but that's why I'm telling, the rep from Wasatch, you make sure whatever you show these folks is what you better be bringing in a zone change. And I'm sure that's what it is. Because that's what they build.
I'm with Chairman Hanson. Usually the information up here is what isn't had down there, and the challenge is conveying it that way, but it's kind of reverse on this.
It is because it's a general plan amendment to go to the higher density. So I don't blame them for trying to sell the residents on what they're bringing. I don't like to bring that stuff to you in a general plan amendment because it looks like you're already approving the project when there's still another phase to go. Does that make sense? Another step to go through. Because I don't want to be that, because that's sometimes what happens. People think, well, that's the project was approved, and then they come back and change you something else. Then I don't want to be in that battle. So I'd rather not. I'd rather you feel open and knowing you're comfortable with it going to the high density and then see the project at the zone change.
Well, with that said, so this is Commissioner Anderson. If that's what we're basing on, then I would say I'm definitely not comfortable going to high density here. I think It's already the general plan for medium high density. They already had a good project that worked with that. And I think if city council wants to change, the general plan, I think that's something they should look at doing. But I don't like the idea of just changing the general plan for a particular project, especially if we haven't seen any reason why that would benefit, the city. So I don't think it's a good precedent to do that. I don't like changing it to medium high density. Now granted, it's odd that no one is against the project, but again, I'm looking at it from the principle of I don't like just changing the general plan just to change the general plan, especially when we have nothing to go on other than an empty chamber,
Very few people come to support things. I mean, it's just the way it
Lori
is.
and Dick do. They come.
But they come to support us.
I know, but I'm just saying, I think it's something if city council wanted this area to be a different, general plan, then that's something that they should look at. I don't like changing it on a project by project basis like this.
Does it change your mind at all, Commissioner Anderson, of where its location is in proximity to this community commercial?
No.
It does for me a little, but I'm with you on the same page.
I think the project that we already approved was already packed as it was. I mean, it had lots of people in there, lots of density. We already had issues with access and so forth, and now we're proposing to possibly almost doubling the density. Now I know they may be having a project that's not doubling the density, but still, it just seems like we're doubling down on the issues that we had before. And before, I mean, it barely got approval before because of those same reasons. And now we're wanting to double the density. I just think it's, I don't like it.
Technically, it's only a 25% increase, not.
But like you
I know what
said,
you're saying, but
R3 could be.
I know,
anything,
but I
I'm
don't
just
want it to
saying.
be misconstrued.
No, I know, but
just-
again,
yeah.
with where we haven't been shown anything other than we're just being told this is what it's going to be zoned or general planned as. I mean, then it is. We are doubling the potential density. I don't like the in principle.
Any thoughts over here?
I don't see a problem in it. It's close to the commercial. I mean, it's going to be, there's going to be problems with exits, but that'll work itself out later. Once you get that 11th East in. Other than that, I mean, it might be a better project. I don't know. I just don't like I just want to make sure that if it does come back, we can deny if it's not what the residents around there and everyone else looked at, where we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Tupou. I think I'm okay with the project. I think it abuts up to a commercial property. I don't know what other use that property could be. And yeah, I don't have a problem with the project at all.
Well, it could be the existing use. We already got a project that works for that.
We already approved that, and this is Sheila.
It's canceled. It's lapsed, right? They'd have to come back and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
But the one that was there is lapsed.
She
so they
said, "I
wanna
don't see
have it."
what else could be here." I'm just saying what they already, what it's zoned for, or what it's general plan for. It could be there.
I like this, Commissioner Hanson. I liked the project that we had before because it fit better with Desert Flower, which ultimately, in my mind, I was trying to do in that process. And it just feels so weird that we had pushback that I don't think I'll forget in a long time. Caused me to say things I shouldn't say in a meeting, and I regret them, and I haven't been able to sleep since then. So, and now I'm like, oh, now it's great, but it's completely opposite of what we had, and it just feels super uncomfortable. It's not enough necessary for me to say I'm totally opposed to this, but I'm like, man, that feels super weird because the public came in and told us they wanted something, and now it's gone. But I was agreeing with them. I thought that was the right thing to do. Is the project that we did create before. Some of you might have seen that for sure. I mean, I think I've seen it twice. So, but I liked it, and that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of on the fence both ways. I don't really necessarily want to shut it down, but I don't want to, like you were saying, put high density just pick places in different areas and change the overall structure of what we're trying to do here. That's my only thing, but it's not enough for me to say no. It's just kind of like, I don't really like the idea. What my fear is ultimately is that it comes back again, and then people come back in and they're upset with it somehow. I'm like, wait a second, where were you when we were in a different position at one point, and nobody showed up to help us help you, type of thing. But that's just where I'm at. It just feels super weird for me.
Yeah, Commissioner Tupou. Yeah, I think whatever they showed the residents must be pretty awesome. And so I'm going to trust that, and I'm going to trust the staff that if they brought it to us, that they think it's a good project as well. So part of me being okay with this is that all the residents are not here to protest the project. So they must have seen something really awesome. And so I'm going to trust that the developer proposed something really great to put there. And I'm going to trust that the staff knows what they're doing, and I'm going to follow that.
Commissioner Anderson, well, so staff is still neutral. They're not recommending approval.
Or are they?
And that's how I feel. I feel pretty neutral about the thing, but I lend towards more denial and take the burden off of us and let it go to city council.
Commissioner Anderson, again, I think for the principle of I have no problem changing zoning within whatever zones are allowed. I mean, somebody buys a piece of property, they have the right to ask for rezoning as long as it's general plan. 100% all day long. I have no problem with that. But when someone wants to change the general plan, that's not a property right that they have. That's not anything. That's something that city council, they get together and they decide for the entire community, how they want the general plan to be. And it's a big process. And for us just to piecemeal here or there because there's a silent crowd that maybe it'll be a great project. I think we have no information whatsoever to make a good decision on that. I think it's a bad decision just based on those factors. I'm not saying their project would be bad. It might be awesome, but we don't have anything other than a silent crowd to base that on. I think that's a bad reason to make our judgment.
Prior to the last meeting, I wasn't here when this came. And I had a few phone calls about this project, complaining about it. I didn't have any calls this time, but I didn't, but I'm not comfortable with it. So.
That's what feels so weird.
I know.
Is everything points that we should feel comfortable with it, but I feel not comfortable with it based on its history to where it got to this point.
I think that when there's history on a project, right, when you've seen it a few times and had a few meetings, the depth of your just perception is more profound. And this is right square in the middle of that legislative authority hat where you can really, your thoughts and feelings of what really feels right, especially for that area, are perfectly legitimate to base a decision on. And so, yeah, I think that your feelings are good, rational, normal feelings for the history that you've known and the setting you're in today. And your decision would be to recommend approval or denial or just, recommend that it go on to the city council.
Commissioner Anderson, I'm not against their project because I have no bearing on the project whatsoever. I don't know if it's a good project or a bad project or anything, but I'm against the principle. So I'm going to make a motion to recommend denial of G-22-01, request to amend the general planned use map in the area located at approximately the northeast corner of Bella Vista Drive and Desert Cactus Drive from the current medium-high density residential to the new proposed proposed high-density residential general land use designation, and send it to city council with a recommendation for denial.
And every time we deny anything, we need to give a statement of a reason why.
I did. I made my statement before.
I
don't think that.
I know, but was it in your motion? Sorry, I don't know if I caught it in your motion.
I can say it again. So reason for denial is that I don't think we should piecemeal change the general land use map. I think if city council wants to change the general plan, they can do so on a large scale, but I don't like changing it on a piece by piece basis, especially where we have no bearing on it.
This Shield, I'd second that.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Anderson. I have a second by Commissioner Shield. All in favor, or individual voting for the motion, Commissioner Shield,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Bullock,
Nay.
Tupo. I'm Hanson. I'm an aye as well. The motion fails 3-2.
No, it,
No, if you voted aye,
Passes
you were in
3-2.
favor.
I apologize. Again, this is backwards. It's very backwards than what I think I'm used to. Is there anything else, Drew, that we need to add to this? There aren't many that come across here that land in this position.
No, that's it. I appreciate the denial statement, a little long-winded, but we'll get it. I know. I should have said, I just need a little more. No, we'll get that in there. No, I'm just teasing with you, Corey. Don't be. So anyway, this will go to the council 3 weeks from tonight, which is their March 9th meeting. Same with the prior one and the one to follow, that it'll be heard at their meeting. So again, it just goes forward. They'll either uphold, or change and overturn the recommendation. That's just their options always. So that'll go to them 3 weeks from tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, item number 8A. This will be the last item on our agenda this evening. This is a city code amendment. This is tabled from January 19th. It's a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to City Council, a city code amendment to amend Title 9, Chapter 10, to eliminate storage units in commercial zones. And I'll turn the time over to staff for any comment or report.
Well, thank you, commissioners, and I hope you don't beat me up too much on this, but this item was also tabled on the 19th with the commissioners asking to look at the possibility of just moving storage units into industrial zones, but also to consider planned unit development commercial zoning as well. So staff took some time, weighed it out, thought it out, read through the PUDC, et cetera, studied, and just came to the conclusion that it would not be any different than just leaving things as they are versus moving the option to PUDC designation. In essence, you're just making it from one commercial designation to another commercial designation. People would then just be coming in and flooding you. I mean, with these, you'd be flooded with PUDCs just for storage units. I think that just kept coming back to me. I tried to get out of that mindset, but and ultimately, that's kind of what I felt would just happen. So all we'd be doing is taking them out of the C2, C3 as a conditional use permit. People then just be applying for PUDCs to still keep them on commercial properties anyway. So with that said, staff would just like to move it forward to City Council as originally proposed. That we are just proposing that conditional uses be eliminated from the commercial zones within the city, and they can go through the industrial zones where they are permitted in a I2, but conditional use permit in a I1. And so,
Did you mean storage units are eliminated? You
did I
said
s-
conditional uses are eliminated in the city.
I know, but our council would probably like me to eliminate conditional uses.
We'll get
It
there.
is storage units, sorry, conditional use, storage units out of the conditional use permit list. Thank you for catching that. So that is it. But, I'm willing to talk it over with you on that. And if you had any other thoughts, I know you weren't here, right?
Right, I wasn't here, but I do have a couple of comments on that I don't disagree that it should be a permitted use in an industrial environment. But there are some storage units that aren't typical storage units that actually look almost like a nice commercial office building.
Well, you approved one a month or two ago.
Right. And so I don't see any problem with that staying as a conditional use in a C3 type deal.
Well, I'm gonna play your advocate here because I won't be able to do that because if they come back with the ones that aren't looking like the office building, et cetera,
Right.
you cannot deny them because they don't look like the ones you want them to be. In essence, you would just be status quo like we are today. But I thought it was this group who didn't keep doing storage units
So
in
There's
commercial.
places on Telegraph that this would work. But
I know,
it's
but
zone industrial.
I'm not really allowed, I can't pick and choose those throughout this. That's just how zoning works, unfortunately. You know, that I can't go and say, well, because yours looks better than this guy's, we're going to let you come in, or because you're here, I'm going to let you come in, but I'm not going to let you go here because in a conditional use permit, I think I've explained this to you, they're permitted uses with conditions upon them because of the nature of the business or the location of the business. Okay. Now the state ombudsman wants all cities, if possible, get rid of conditional uses, period, because they can be. That's what ends up in court more than any other zoning issues, conditional uses, because people feel there was arbitrary and capricious things that took place. The city favored this one for whatever reason and not mine. I'm suing them, and in conditional uses that happens unfortunately a lot. Even unintentionally, you're not trying to, but things happen in those, and so that's why they tell all of us to just get rid of it, all your conditional use as much as possible.
If you'll recall the training, the two different hats, the legislative hat and the administrative hat, the courts have concluded that by creating a conditional use list within your zoning designation, you've exercised the legislative hat. And now the next decision becomes an administrative hat where you have less authority to decide how it looks and feels as it benefits the citizens and the public, right? So it's more of a have they or haven't they complied. And so the motivation behind this change is not a we don't want storage units. It's a we recognize we only have limited commercial zone space, and we don't want storage units on the limited commercial zone space unless they come in and can bring a project, as you described, Commissioner Schill, either through a variance or permitted exception, depending on what the current zoning was at the time. If they can bring in and show us a project with storage units that we just think is the best thing possible for that space, we can still consider it. But we won't have a zone that gives them a right to bring a storage unit project in commercial that we wouldn't want. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And so I still think that we can have the right storage unit project break ground if we remove it, but landowners won't have the same vested rights to storage unit projects in commercial that they do today.
They'll just be in a different location, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
I can
And-
still
and
get
I
the nice
that-
looking one,
Yeah,
just in that different zone. So
I just know these guys want to be around rooftops. And when you throw them out in an industrial area, they're out of the rooftop. And everybody wants their own storage unit right next door to them.
that's right. Now, I think our neighbor next door has already made this jump. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm in the
They
high
have.
90s.
Yeah, the STG.
And it's funny because after we did them, it's like you guys are like almost beating me up to get this done. Now I feel like, did I misread you? Because I don't think that I did, but anyway, I'm just so. But it's your choice, you guys. You know, we're just staff's proposing it because I've heard it from both council and commission that I've had enough people say that this is what. So I'm just bringing it forward as staff, and as you know, collective. You have 5 of you decide if that's what you want to do or you don't do.
I'm
So-
fine with it. I just had that concern about it.
No, it is hard because it will do, but you know, then I go through and start looking at all the places we have them. We have quite a few of them. And the problem is we've only got one really nice, like the one you talked about. The rest of them are the old, all you see is a sea of roll up doors and slanted, 1.5, 12 pitch roofs, if they even have that much, but so that's just the issue in your commercial zones, and you don't get the same tax. You don't get hardly any
don't
of
get
it
anything.
at all. You get no tax, retail sales tax off that at all.
And they create little to no jobs. I mean,
That's
that's why
true.
everybody wants them. No one's going to put a bunch of storage units there, and it creates very little jobs, maybe 1 or 2 for as much space as they take up. They're not creating jobs for anybody to bring more jobs into our community or our tax base to help with the roads and everything else. So that's why I think we should have them only in industrial areas. And the ones out on Washington Dam Road are nice, but they're in the industrial area, so
Yeah.
that's just fine.
It's just a hard thing, because they're always full, right? And so obviously they're popular. Citizens like storage units. But I think the staff and the city perspective is we're trying to really prioritize commercial use in our existing commercially zoned areas. And one of those would be, to put these into different zones. And I think it's fair to say this is a reaction to the various storage unit projects that got approved within the last 18 months or so. I think that there is a feeling that, maybe we have enough, or maybe we felt like some commercial areas that we had preferred, maybe retail, became storage units, right? And so all of that's interconnected for sure.
Commissioner Shill, for what it's worth, I have a storage unit in Hurricane where I live. I drive 2 miles to get there. You think that's only 2, but anywhere in my city is going to be in my industrial zones. So just for what it's worth, driving to my industrial zones is going to be 2 miles or less for most citizens in this city.
How many times
They brought up the gas station in the city council. They said, well, we have so many within a 3-mile radius. I thought 3 miles. So I went and looked. That's clear across town, all of them. So that's why I'm sharing this with you, because I'm thinking, oh, that's 3 miles, and it doesn't feel like it's that long, but it is. Anybody within the city, you drive 3 miles, you're at city limits. I don't care where you live, you're going to be out of the city in most cases. Even if you live on one side, it's going to put you out of the limits on the other side as well. Especially I know all of you in the fields, it would be that way. And so just for what that's worth, even though it may be in there, they may still only drive 2, and I have no problem driving my 2 miles to go to my storage unit and back. It's not, I don't feel like it's such a burden.
This might be too personal of a question, but have you ever pushed traffic to that storage unit?
No, I haven't had to push. I pulled.
That's what
but
I have,
pushed,
not
so-
that one, but.
I like the language of prioritizing what we do here.
Yeah.
And I think that was good language, and I understand that. I think we need to be careful with that, because we don't have a lot of commercial, really.
So this is Commissioner Anderson. So I'm the one that made the motion last time to table this, so we looked at the PUD version, but I'm satisfied with this. I mean, I mainly wanted staff to look at the option and think about it and see if we wanted to make that as an option or not.
And on that, I'll just say we've had a couple of meetings between city manager Drew, myself, and others, and we even tried to draft kind of an amendment. We decided, we're just doing the same thing that we were trying to not do, which was allow storage units to be a priority within commercial. And so we tried to look at it as you had requested.
So with that, how about this, Drew? I'll give you a short one.
Hey, let's open the public comment.
Hold on. Let's,
We
yeah.
already did that.
I don't think so. Did we close it?
Nope.
I don't think we've opened the public hearing for this particular item, so I'm going to do that at this time. Also, there was quite a few comments. I think some people might have been somewhat confused, but we did receive a number of comments about storage units and the way that some of them are worded. I think there was some miscommunication, but Lori, Sharon, Darlene, Barbara, Janelle, Elon, Bev, Suzanne, Sandra, Misty, Robert, end of page. Also received those comments that were reviewed, and the city council's also received them, and they'll review those as well. So at this time, if anybody here in the chamber would like to speak to this item, please come forward and state your name for the record.
Dick Saunders, Washington City resident. I may be preaching to the choir here, but I do believe that our commercial needs to be generating tax revenue. And if that for no other reason, we want to make it at least not an automatic option to be able to put in a request for storage units. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing from the commission.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
It's Commissioner Tupou, I second that.
Okay, I've got a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, the public hearing is now closed, and I'll look for any other comments or a motion on item number 8A.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I'll make a motion to recommend approval to City Council for consideration to amend a portion of the City Code, Title 9-10B-2B, Conditional Uses, removing storage units from the list of uses in commercial zones.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Anderson. I have a second by Commissioner Bullock. Individual voting, Shield.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Bullock.
Aye.
Tupou.
Aye.
I'm Hanson. I'm an aye as well. Item number 8A passes unanimously. We'll send that to City Council with our recommendation for approval. At this time, Commissioners, that completes everything on our agenda item. Is there anything that needs to be brought before this body at this time?
Well, if I may, I'm speaking a little quick, but it sounds like the city council is going to amend how they do their meetings. And so I think your Wednesday nights are now back just for you. So I'm just asking you to consider, think about, you can't make a motion tonight because it really doesn't matter, but going back to 5:30 or keeping them at 6 o'clock. I know it might help some of you to come at 6, but I think, and we'll only make this sure, but I just want you to think about it, but I think it's on their meeting next week that they're going to vote about redoing their meeting schedule. So I'm just asking you to think about if that does happen, to think about if you want to go back to 5:30 or keep them at 6 o'clock.
Any discussion from the commissioners? Does it matter one way or the other to any of you?
I personally like 6. 6 is a lot easier to make than 5:30.
I knew that it would help you, a lot.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying,
Does
'cause
it?
sometimes
Does
it
it?
does.
I mean, because you're still not on time for the 6 o'clock ones.
I know.
Now I'm going to
I
share.
made it to the start of the prayer.
I'm going to share a little history from you, and I'm
Because
going to
we held
embarrass
off for you.
I'm going to embarrass your our city attorney over here. When he was made a city councilman, because of his job, he asked if because it used to be 5:30. Do you remember this? You probably don't remember. So he asked if they could move him to 6, and then they've been that way ever since you were a city councilman because of his workload. You were working at Sun Warrior at the time, I think, and they wouldn't let you get out.
Private attorney, yeah, so I was just working a lot.
So he had to do that. So the council said, "Yeah, we're okay with that," and they bumped it to 6. So and it helps. It depends on your workloads. I know sometimes it might be hard for you in traveling, right? I'm not sure, but that's for you guys to decide what's going to work best for you. So to us, it doesn't matter because we're open till 5:30 now. If you guys heard our new hours, Monday through Thursday, or 7:30 to 5:30, and then half a day on Fridays. So the building
If
is
it
that
does
way.
change, I know I'll be happy, but that's because my Wednesdays have been every other Wednesday is a work session till 5:30, and then planning commission at 6, and just those 2 meetings back to back has been a lot to plan and prepare for.
Yep.
And so whatever time, because they're changing their work sessions, whatever time you hold it at is going to be workable for me. I think there's an element to the 6 o'clock of just, me believing that later in the evening helps the citizens get off of work too, right? And so that's always a factor, but they're publicly broadcast. We've got a lot of ways to access these now, and those are good points as well.
Anybody? Yeah.
6 is good with me. It doesn't matter.
It's not to be decided this evening, like you said. So, but
Sounds like a lot of everybody's
I've
wanting
got-
to lead towards 6.
I've got
I'm
just
okay.
a question off that subject, but Anderson brought up a point of this open space. Maybe we need to rename that, not to be open space, because everybody buys a house or whatever, and they say, "I got open space right here."
Yeah,
What-
they think it means HOA.
Yeah, you
common
can't do
area.
anything
It's
with it.
not.
Yeah, it's not.
Maybe it should be called unzoned space or something. I don't know.
No matter what you
Less
call it, though,
deceiving.
I mean, because it just arose by any other name. And I'm just saying this after 27 years. I've no cities who have tried to do it. It doesn't matter. People say, "I expected this to stay." You could call it, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious zone, and they think, "Oh, it's supposed to look like this forever." That's the issue that you have. It's not what the name you give it. It's them thinking it's going to be that way because it doesn't have specific zoning. You put it out there and it has nothing to it. But we just, so I mean, I get where you're coming from, but it's just hard no matter, because again, I've tried to find other ways to do it. There is no other way because they think it's going to be something, and a real estate agent tells them it's going to always just stay like that. That's the problem, is that people think it's going to stay like that,
Yeah,
no matter
I'll
what
tell
you
you,
call it.
Brokers.
No, I'm not
are-
saying, but I'm just only saying that because if I had a dime for every time someone came in and told me they're all mad because the development's going, because my real estate agent promised me this was, and I'm not blaming real estate. I'm just saying that's the words that I get from everybody saying they were promised this. And I just go, I wish please pay me your dime first, and then I'll tell you I'm sorry that you were told that. But
True.
it's just hard that way because it is, and people think it is going to be, but I tell people the only way you can protect something of view or whatever, you buy all the land between where you're standing and that view you love, and then you can, I tell them now, as long as you don't change your mind, you'll always have that beautiful, pristine view. But that's the only way to do it, is to say you buy everything, you buy all that open space, and then it won't change if you don't want it to. Unfortunately, that cities evolve, and especially if you're in a growing area, I hope nobody thinks that, things will stay the same. I mean, you sit on this commission, they don't.
Sometimes we've had folks that bought a property that came in and said, here's the plan that got approved, and all of that was shaded green. And so we thought it was all going to be, lawn or
Grass
turf.
and lawn.
And I guess there's no perfect answer here. We could create a zone that's, the TBD zone, or just some zone that's whole purpose is to say this is just not zoned for anything, but it's also not just, a free for all. But I'm not sure we're gonna help those folks that didn't figure it out on the first blush any differently.
Yeah, because the only ones you could guarantee is something that has such a bad pitch that nobody's going to touch it anyway, just because the cost of it would be outrageous.
So
But you'd only end up with 2% of your whole city on a case like that. And I know, and they filled up the ravine you were talking about. So
on the meeting times change, the council discussed it tonight at their work session. I had to leave to come to here, and then it'll follow on a regular meeting. And so that they need to take an action before anything can change with your meeting times. And I guess Drew's given you the notice that it's possible a change is underway, and if it is, we'll let you know, and then you can do something if you want.
I just thought while you're here, I'll ask you, and then we'll wait to see what happens, and then it sounds like we may want to we don't need a motion or anything like that. We just need to make sure that we advertise and that we have it, at our time. We do our years. Sorry, Melanie's in there going, Drew, please speak into the mic. But we do like to, at the beginning of the year, at our meetings are always going to be at this time on the 1st and 3rd, so and since we're already at 6 and everybody likes them at 6, then we probably won't even say a word, because now people think our meetings are at 6 anyway, and we'll just not change anything, even after the council does. That's what I would just say. I was only going to go the other way if you wanted to, and then we just have to make sure our notices change that we send to people. So we'll just leave as is.
While we're at it, can we change the back end somehow? We're like cutoffs at 8.
Automatically. Hey, your meetings are your meeting. When you're in here, you can. You want to go from 3 minutes to 1.5 and say speed talk, and
By submission, online only. Those comments, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, commissioners or staff or anything? No. All right. I look for a motion to adjourn this meeting this evening.
Commissioner Anderson, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Commissioner Tupou, I second that.
All right. First and second, all in favor? Aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all.